All right, what's up? So, I'm doing a video on anger today, and I just recorded it 12 minutes, but the microphone wasn't working properly. God's funny sometimes. So, what I was talking about in the video that I already made, that I'm remaking now, and I'm trying not to be angry about, is that when I first got back from Iraq, my dad had a nickname for me called the Angry Young American. There was a time where he was, I don't know, talking about something and it was upsetting me, and I told him if he didn't shut the F up, I was going to punch him in the face. And working with my mom on the house, there was times where I went off and I had made her cry. Road rage, where I scared people that were riding with me. Times when I had, trying to either deal with the VA or cable company or something, where I had went off on customer service representatives and all kinds of things that weren't good for my mental health, and they didn't help with any of the functioning of my day. It would ruin my entire day, and it would long periods of time that I would spend, and then I would blame the stimulus, my reaction on the stimulus. And what I noticed, or what I realize now, is that I was kind of addicted to anger, and I would shift all of my uncomfortable feelings to anger. So if I felt unworthy, if I felt sad, if I felt upset, if I felt anything, I would shift it to anger because I felt like I was more in control, even though I wasn't. It was a more comfortable emotion for me. And eventually, because your body releases certain chemicals with certain emotions, eventually my body, I would get addicted to anger, and my brain's like, oh, he likes to be angry, so let's find reasons for him to be angry, and then I can go off and I can be justified in my going off in my own head, and I can get that like adrenaline dump and that chemical cocktail that I've subconsciously told myself that I want. So there was lots of instances, um, all areas where I'd find myself getting really angry were triggers, like I said, something making me feel unsafe, out of control, like the road rage thing, feeling like somebody was driving into my convoy, gonna blow it up. That was something that would happen in Iraq. If a car like swerved in real quick, it was likely a vehicle IED or a vehicle bomb that was gonna blow up your convoy. So I had to reframe that and make sure that when it's a trigger, you can use positive affirmations and tell yourself when that happens, like, I'm safe, I'm not in Iraq anymore, I'm not in a combat zone, I don't have to, eliminate the threat. So that's kind of how I deal with the trigger part of it. And it doesn't go away right away. Just because you identify the trigger, it's not like, oh, okay, well, now that I know that, then I'll never do that again. No, it takes a long time to unwire that, especially if it's around like a life or death thing like that. It's a learned neural pathway, and so you're going to have to create a new neural pathway. And in doing so, it's going to take repetition, the same, and you're going to have to override the deeply ingrained one that exists. And by doing that, you can remind yourself, I'm not in a combat zone, I'm safe, or whatever the trigger is that that is having you go off. Because there's a lot of times there, not a lot of times, almost every time there is a stimulus. There is something that happens that triggers you. It's in the now, that happens right there. But it's the underlying thing that causes the overreaction. So a lot of times it's hard to connect that underlying thing, but it's really easy to identify that thing that's pissing you off right there. So it's easy to justify and be like, no, it's just because that person cut me off and they're driving like an idiot and it's raining, and so I should beat their ass. That's not like a crazy thought, but the level in at which I would get and the anger that I would get, it's more detrimental to me. It doesn't do anything to them. unless I actually end up getting out. Almost did get out and fight somebody, but he was like, "Are you a veteran?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Me too." I was like, "Well, shit." And I got back in my car. I was like, I'm not going to beat your ass. And so that was a interesting one where two hotheads got pulled over. But, what's that going to prove? Because of a instance where somebody upset me, I'm going to get shot or something, or get into a fight and hurt somebody or whatever, or shoot somebody. Like, that's not worth it. And so in my subconscious, though, I would justify it and I wouldn't think about those consequences. I would just think about that here and now. So in dealing with that, I had to consciously make the decision that I didn't want to do that anymore, and have intention and awareness that when I did start to do that, how to stop myself, calm myself down, and, apologize if it was to somebody directly. Not going to apologize to somebody on the street that I was, or in a different car that I was yelling at, but, hey, excuse me, I'm going to follow you to the gas station. I'm sorry I yelled at you. No, but I'm saying, like, if you go off on your kids or your mom or your family member or your significant other, your girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, just once you become aware and you want to change that, and then you're going to, when you do find yourself in that situation, you're going to stop yourself, calm yourself down, and apologize. And you're going to allow yourself to not feel, or give yourself some grace that you are working on this and that it's going to take time to unwind it. So that's one thing around triggers. Another thing is around where my reality and expectation deviate. So, like, where I have an expectation of a certain thing, like I should get my disability because this is a pretty cut and dry case, and then they come back and they give me a lowball offer, or they deny it flat out. In that moment, my expectation and my reality are really different, and that's an area where I can get upset. And so in dealing with that, you have to make sure that you have realistic expectations and that you're not attached to that expectation or that outcome. And that you realize, because a lot of times, I ended up getting the disability with time. It took a lot of time and it was frustrating, but the way that I reacted was more detrimental to me. And in the end, I ended up achieving the goal that I was trying to get, but I was angry the whole time. And, like, now I've realized that I've been going through Social Security for 5 years and I still get frustrated. I'm like, what? It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't help me to get frustrated. And so I can shut it down and get myself back a little bit. But, every now and then I do. I'm like, what the hell is going on, man? This is ridiculous. So it's not perfect, but I am able to monitor my expectations. Like, even around my dad back in the day, I used to have an expectation that he was going to do what he said or show up. And at that time he wasn't able to. And when I would expect it and then he didn't, I would be really upset. But now if I know that what to expect from people, and I don't expect what I want to happen. I expect, a more realistic expectation. And another area is where I shift emotions to anger. So that's like dealing with PTSD, dealing with a lot of the negative beliefs, negative thoughts, and the things that I talk about in those areas, a negative mindset, to where I have problems with myself. Then a lot of times I'm going to, when I feel inadequate, like I feel like I'm not in control, I feel unsafe, I feel unworthy, I feel less than, then in those moments, instead of feeling those emotions, I shift it to anger and find something to be mad at, or I get mad that I'm sad. You know what I mean? So somebody made me sad, then I get mad at them. And nobody makes you anything. People do things, and you react to it. And yeah, you can feel feelings, but you don't have to necessarily spiral down the negative spiral loop and take it personal, like I have a bad life, I have bad luck, because your brain looks to validate your beliefs. And if you have a negative belief like that, then it's going to constantly comb through your reality and show you examples of bad luck or a bad life. Whereas that's why I use the gratitude, the mission statement, and repentance, forgiveness, and things like that, is because I want to have a positive mindset and I want to have positive beliefs about myself and my environment and my family and things like that, so that my my brain is combing my reality for positive things and I'm attracting positive things. It's like it's weird how your mindset and your energy um, attract like the similar uh, energy back, and it's so subconscious. It works in a way like, let's say if you have a belief that people don't like you, you're going to approach people as if they don't like you, and like before you anything, you're just approaching people as if they already don't like you. And in approaching people like that with that attitude and that energy and that demeanor, they're gonna not like you. And so it's this weird thing with your mindset that you really have to watch it because it's subconscious. And a lot of these, I never really gave much credence to beliefs and thoughts and stuff like that and negativity versus positivity, but it's definitely helped change a lot of my life, as far as my reactivity and my ability to accept things that don't go the way that I want them to go, or that are annoying or that are frustrating. And it doesn't mean that I have to like have no boundaries and I have to allow people to disrespect me or something like that. That's not the case. But I don't have to allow people to control my energy and to control my mood and my emotions. And I don't have to internalize what other people how other people react. Like there's been times where people have maybe snapped on me and they were having a bad day, and if I would have took what they were saying personal, it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with them. And so you gotta, that's what the internal is greater than external is trying to develop this internal fortitude to where you're self-validated and you don't take on these negative emotions of other people, and that you're rooted in yourself, and you're rooted in, for me, I'm rooted in Christ. And I, have a faith that even if it's bad, that it'll get better, and that I have the ability and the competence to make it through anything. And it might suck, but I'll figure out a way to make it better. And you can do that too. It's a lot to do with your mindset. And if you're struggling with anger, I feel you, man. Like I used to get mad at inanimate objects like my phone. Like it was purposely not working because like, do that again. Yeah, like I'm talking shit to my phone, or like I hit a pipe with my head and I punch it. Like, you know, like, what are you doing? But I used to be really angry, and I'm not anymore. I still have my moments. I still snap on the dog sometimes. I talked about that. I still crash out every now and then, but nobody's perfect. So give yourself some grace. If you're aware that you have a problem, that's the first step. Um, the second step is to start working on it, start identifying your triggers, and start working through your triggers. And don't be afraid to apologize, and don't feel bad for having these PTSD reactions. Feel good that you are addressing them and working through them, and have the expectation that it's going to take a little bit of time. All right, Angry Young American signing off.